Hey, welcome to Brisbane Small Business Show. Today I've got Damian Knoblanche. Now, in real life, he's actually much bigger than he appears on here, I promise. He is a real life-size person. Damian, you're working with the Peak Partnership.
Yeah, that's correct. I'm one of the directors here at the Peak Partnership.
And you've been with the Peak Partnership for, as long as I can remember. How did you come to be, how did the Peak Partnership come to be about?
Peak Partnership started off as a pretty standard chartered accounting firm down in Woodridge back in 1979. So we've been in the business for over almost 40 years now. So we kind of know what we're doing.
Absolutely. As I said, I was recruiting accountants into the chartered accounting industry, and I've known you, and I've known of you and the firm for more than 20 years easily from that time. So the one thing that I love about Peak Partnership is that they are a multi-partner firm, and with that they do have great access to a variety of information, and that's why I've reached out to Damian today to find out a little bit more about this JobKeeper package, and if we get time, we will also touch on some other things. But there is a lot of excitement this week about the JobKeeper program. Damian, how are you surviving? That's the very first question.
Yeah, there's a fair bit of anxiety, Kevin, and it's probably at the moment we're living through history, guys. This stuff that we're doing now hasn't been come across before. So in the bigger picture, there is a fair bit of anxiety about a range of things, including the unknowns, including the COVID-19 issue, and also including the social isolation. So we're missing that contact between ourselves and the ability to maybe see someone in a business relationship and just have a chat about how things are going. So I fully understand there's plenty of anxiety out there. Today and this week has been magnified for those of us who own a business and want to qualify for the JobKeeper program, because the program is only opened up on Monday the 20th, and for payments that'll start from the 1st of March, run through until the application date till the 26th this Sunday. Now, don't panic, because it doesn't just close off on the 26th. It actually remains open through the 6 months of the program through to September. The issue is you won't get your back payment for March if you don't register. So it'll only be from the date forward. So let's put a little context around the anxiety, put the calm blanket on, and just have a look at some of the issues that I think can help you qualify and help you get registered this week, if you can.
And everyone should try and get registered, but do you feel that there may be a little bit of relaxation? Obviously the ATO site is under a bit of extra pressure at the moment. I know that the school sites all crashed yesterday. I'm pretty sure the ATO site was at best operating at snail's pace because of the influx of activity. Do you think that there may be a slight relaxation to that back pay in relation to, hey, we didn't anticipate that it would crash our site?
Yeah. The tax office is the last link in the chain for this. If you understand the process, it's been a government announcement by ScoMo that goes back until early April. Legislation only went to Parliament on the Thursday before Easter, and it's probably the most badly written legislation we've seen in a long time. It's got spelling errors, it's got grammar errors. Everyone in this chain is pushing towards a payment date of the first week in May. And so I think a lot of the pressure has come about because of what's been announced and the want to get this thing moving quickly. Now,
absolutely. And as you said, it's really unprecedented. The reason for all of this is the government's enacting, 20 years of legislation in 20 days. And that's while Parliament is operating on a shoestring of people. So with all of that, that is impacting all of this stuff. So what are the key things that people need to know?
The key issues really are to understand that JobKeeper is a reimbursement process, all right? You must have paid the salary to be reimbursed for the JobKeeper payments. Any lodgements that are going to happen will need to happen by eligible employers for eligible employees to receive payments. So let's just step through what each of those may mean and some of the traps that we found in getting our clients lodged this week. Number one, you've got to do a little bit of pre-pay, okay? So if you are an employer, you can no doubt be on the STP, so the single touch payroll system. You also then would be operating through the business portal. Now, the business portal at the end of March went through a verification process where they changed from AusKey across to MyGov ID. Now, MyGov ID is different to your normal MyGov, My ID that you get from the government. And you must have done both of those processes to enable you to efficiently register for JobKeeper. If you've done those, then we move into whether you're an eligible employer. The eligible employers are those that have suffered a 30% decline in what they've defined in the legislation as GST turnover. So it excludes any GST, obviously. It excludes input tax items like dividends, interest, and rent. If you can measure that either month on month or quarter on quarter, there's been some discussion about exactly if you're a monthly lodger, can you use quarterly, and if you're a quarterly lodger, can you use monthly. You can use any of those methods you like. Generally, with the monthly, it'll be up till the end of April. So we are talking up to the end of this week in terms of payments. And then for the quarterlies, it could be even using your June quarter. Now that's test A, a 30% reduction. Test B is one of the great unknowns that we still have at the moment. It's called the Commissioner's discretion. So if for any reason you don't fit into A, but you still believe you will have a drop or have had a drop in your income comparatively for your business, then you fit into the Commissioner's discretion situation. We don't have a lot of detail around what that will entail, what you'd like to do, but we would give them to the understanding that if your business profile has changed, you've added another business to your business, so prima facie your income's higher than what it was last year, that's only because you've added another part to your business. If you've restructured your business, if you've got a new business that only started in this financial year and haven't had the process, then we think the Commissioner's discretion is where you need to be. We think what you will need to have is what we call a reasonably arguable position to say that my income will drop or has dropped, and that won't be just based on the budgets and the forecasts that you've done previously. It'll be based on actual information that you've got. Say one of my clients does the media handling for a large retail food outlets franchise system. He's been told in the letter was taking all that back to the US, and you won't be getting that work from next month on. He's got an absolute ironclad written agreement that his income's going to drop, and we'll be requesting the Commissioner's discretion. That discretion process isn't putting a form into the tax office and asking them to come back and say whether you fit or you don't fit. Given the time frame, the tax office can't look through every one of those, and they won't be doing that. We believe it'll be based on a self-assessment, and that's why you need to have the backup documents to say, I applied for JobKeeper on the basis of blah, 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 blah. Now, the tax office will be using computerized audit processes, where they'll be taking your BAS from last year, the BAS you just lodged, matching the two. If you're down your 30%, no questions asked, away you'll go. If there's not that down that 30%, we think somewhere down the track, you'll be asked the question, but I think you'll get straight in the gate if you want to apply for today. So test A, test B, reasonable arguable position, and that's one of the great unknowns, test B. The next one would be your employees. So you have to go through a process of almost 7 questions for your employees. We've developed a spreadsheet, and I'll make that available to anyone listening, that enables you to go through in quite an easy yes-no format on each of your employees, and it'll determine their eligibility or not. There's a further process that has to happen. The employees have to agree in writing to it, and then there needs to be a form lodged, which is called the JobKeeper Employee Nomination Form.
Sorry about that. You've just gone quiet there, Damian.
Sorry,
thank you.
I might have hit on the button. So there's a fair bit of paperwork that has to happen between you and even your employees. One, to notify them that you're going to be applying for JobKeeper on their behalf. So they don't apply if they have a second job or another job. They can only get JobKeeper from one employee, and you need to be that person to do it. So that needs to happen. There may be situations where you have casual employees, and this seems to be, again, another area of pain. If you're casual employees, and in my mind, I'm using the term permanent part-timers. So in the legislation, they use long-term casuals. But if you've got someone who's done fairly regular casual hours, they come in every Saturday or every other Saturday, but if they only come in a couple of days, 1 month, and they might be in 4 days another month and nothing the month after that, they're not going to qualify under this JobKeeper. It's the casuals that the tax office has been keeping out.
Look, we
So
do have a question on this, that we've got someone who has casuals that are working one shift per week. Now, normally they would have them working, but at the moment, because of the shop being shut, they don't have that for them. Would they be eligible?
if they're reasonably permanent part-timers, yes, they would need to be re-employed, and they would need to be paid $1,500 a fortnight before you could qualify for the JobKeeper and then be reimbursed the $1,500. So it's what we call a top-up payment. So you may have someone who is getting $800 a fortnight over those 2 weeks. You have to top them up with another $700 to make it up to $1,500, and then apply to the tax office to get your $1,500 back. So there's a little bit of outlay in terms of the employer to do that, and then to get them on the registration. Now, you talk about stand down. There's a few issues again, a few question marks around superannuation, particularly for those employees who aren't working. So physically, if you have to shop your cafe, your gym, your pub, your club, but you want to keep your staff handy, you want to keep them online, and you've applied for JobKeeper. If they aren't physically working, you don't need to pay the SGC on there. You don't need to pay the SGC on that top-up payment I was just talking about, but it's our understanding that you do need to pay the SGC on that normal, as you said, 1 day a week casual payment. So again, there's a few things floating around. I've even had a client tell me the tax officer said it's totally discretionary. You can pay the SGC if you want or you don't. I guess the only joy we have there is that the SGC, the superannuation, sorry to use the terminology, superannuation, the 9.5%, won't be payable in 28 days after the end of the quarter. So we've got a bit of time to sort that one out, but you do need to get your systems right. And as I said, the main players in this market space, MyOb, Xero, etc., QuickBooks have now got how-to guides that are out there, and we'll talk a little bit about that before we finish. So you then have a process where now we've qualified as an employer, we've qualified our employees who we're going to have on board, we've done a top-up payment, we've talked to the employees, we've got their signatures on it, and now we make an application through the business portal. If you can't do that through the business portal, you're able to do it through your BAS agent or your tax agent. They can help you with that process. There may be a fee involved. I've seen some people charging up to $600 to get that done. But generally, if you're an ongoing client with the firm, they'll be able to do that for you. Just understand, accountants and business advisors and BAS agents are in the same position you are. We've only got so much information in our hands. We're giving you the best information we can at this point in time, but we are also under the crunch from a number of employers saying, how do I do this? How do I do that? What can you help me with? So part of what today was, as I said, was to put the calm blanket over the top of all of this and say, we've got some nice work pages we've developed. We're happy to share that with you guys and hopefully tell you about some of these pain points. So pain point number one is discretion.
But can you just give me 1 second? Just give me 1 second. Really, really critical point there is that your service providers of accountants are in the exact same boat as all of us, okay? It's not an us and them thing, it's a we thing, right? So they're under pressure, they're under financial pressure. They've got to do all of this for their staff as well. So please don't be holding your hand out expecting them to do stuff for free if that's not your normal accountant, because they can't afford to do that for everyone, right? They're not getting paid anything by the tax office to give you that support. So please treat all of our fellow small business colleagues with the same respect that you would expect to be treated yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. And I guess, like many professionals, we'd like to be able to say we've got all the answers. If you ask us a question, in the past, if it's about CGT or something, we've got legislation that's been well read, we've got case history, we've got the tax officer's views on how things operate. We've got virtually none of that at this point in time. We've got legislation that went to Parliament that is really a framework about how this should work, but it was up to the tax office and the treasurer then to put together the bones around it and say, this is how they're physically going to work, and these are the forms you're going to use. And so we're going through this process together. It's a learning process. We don't have all the information, and you will get different answers from the tax office at different times. So please bear with us. I'm sure every one of your advisors is under the pump as well. So we talked a little bit about qualification, employers, employees. So then the payments start coming through from next month, from early in May. So the qualification is you need to lodge your BAS for the March quarter. Now, if at all possible, I would encourage you to heavily talk to your advisors before lodging your BAS for more than two reasons. One is the cash flow boost. So if you are paying withholding tax from your employees, there is the ability to get up to $100,000 per entity from the cash flow boost, so maximising that. Two is obviously the BAS has your turnover figure in it. And as I said before, it's the tax office they're going to be making a relatively assessment electronically and saying, this is what you lodged on your BAS last year, this is what you're lodging this year. Making sure those numbers are in the right order, and the 30% drop is critical to you getting the JobKeeper as quick as possible. The third thing would be about varying your instalments. Okay, the tax officer told us we're able to vary your PAYGI on those BASs down to nil, and there won't be any penalties or interest charged down the track. And there's also the ability to vary those PAYG instalments for both the previous 2 quarters and get a refund. So wouldn't that be nice for a change within 14 days of lodgement? And then there's the general, if you are still paying tax on the BAS form, the ability to have up to 6 months to make those payments would be engaging with the tax office for an extended repayment period. That'll happen as well. So please talk to your provider and make sure that BAS is right. So talking about payments of $1,500, we've already said if they're not working, no GST, that needs to go to the employees, the full $1,500. You can't make money out of this system, guys. It's not going to put money into the business, with one exception, which we'll talk about. It's generally just a pass-through. You're operating like Centrelink. You're passing through the money from the government, but withholding the tax on the way through.
Sorry, Damian, but that is a really big theme that we have been saying. Don't try and game the system, right? My personal belief, and looking at how the federal government have acted to date, is they have been trying to do everything they possibly can to support as many businesses staying open and operating as possible. They're, as Damian said earlier, they're putting through so much legislation so fast, it can be poorly written. Don't try and game it. If you try and game it and get caught out, what I would expect further down the track are massive penalties for people who are doing that. But that's just my guess. But yeah.
No, very correct. And I guess the biggest penalty would be having to repay it. So you take someone that might have 10 employees, gets $3,000 a month for each, and 30 grand a month, he gets it over the next 6 months, 180 grand. We come 2 years later, the tax office says, why did you register for that? You shouldn't have. You owe us $180,000. There are significant big amounts involved in this process. You need to get it right. You need to get it right now, not down the track. Okay. So the payments flow through. The one exception that we haven't spoken about, and again, was a concession partway through this negotiation that happens once legislation is released, and we hear about from different interested parties what really hasn't been done, what's been forgotten, etc., is called an eligible business participant. So for each of the entities that you may be trading in, a partnership, a company, a trust, or even as a sole trader, they have said you can apply, and that person isn't receiving a salary at this point in time, but is actively involved in the business, which certainly be the case for the sole trader partners. You can't employ yourself, but you may just be the beneficiary of your trust, and you may be the shareholder in your trading company, and you're taking a dividend or a distribution each year rather than salary. You can apply for one person out of each of those entities to be eligible for the JobKeeper program. Now, again, working with the tax office on this, there is a new form, which is called the JobKeeper nomination form for eligible business participants, excluding sole traders. So this is number 2 thing that we're missing at the moment, is the sole trader and how they apply. But there is a nomination form for the beneficiaries, the directors, the partners, and the shareholders in the business. So again, a concession that's been made along the way, and some working process that we're working through to exactly how that's going to fall out. So they're the 2 real big exceptions, guys. The Commissioner's discretion, make sure you've got your reasonably arguable position if you're going to go down that road. And 2, make sure that if you're going to be an eligible participant, in other words, you haven't taken a salary out of your own business along the way, you register for the JobKeeper and cop the $1,500. Now that, as I said, is the one exception that allows you to keep the $1,500 in your business entity. You don't need to pay it out to the director, to the shareholder, to the beneficiary at that point in time. You continue to do your payment system as you had in the past, whether it be through annual distributions or dividends, etc. So that way there's a little bit more cash flow in your business, but that's the only exception we can find. Does that sort of cover most of the sort of stuff we're talking about, Kev?
Sorry, muting ourselves. We occasionally make an occasional mistake. Look, that's covered the questions that people have been game to ask. I know that we discussed you guys having a download and providing links for people to be able to reach out. The information has been fantastic. It's been very, very thorough. Well pointed out. People may need to listen through a couple of times to get some of the points. I know I'm going to go back and relook at it later so that then I can understand the discussions that I'm having with others as well as with my tax practitioner, so that we get the process right, because that is absolutely critical. With all government things, it's about getting the process right. Make sure you take your time to be accurate.
Yeah. We're well down this track, and I guess there's some urgency with some of this stuff. And what we'd like to do for the participants in the small business community, and as I said, from our point of view, throwing a blanket over some of the anxiety out there, we will provide to you via a landing page on our home webpage what we've termed our COVID-19 stimulus and support, which is a comprehensive document that covers off not only on the JobKeeper, but the cash flow boost and a whole range of state and government stuff. I will make available our work papers. So our internal work papers for qualifying your employees, which again forms part of your requirements in terms of, if the tax office have asked you, how did you come up with those people? And that's a simple yes, no solution to give you eligible or ineligible. And we'll also give you our work papers on being an eligible employee and being an eligible business participant. Now, all those are available for free. It'll be on our landing page under Peak Partnership, and at the top of the banner, you'll see COVID-19, and then it'll be our offer. And if you could go to that page, drop in obviously your email details so we can email that to you. There's 3 quick questions about turnover. Do you have employees, and do you take a salary? And that'll help us get the right information to you straight away. So if you'd like to do that, we'd be more than happy to share that with you to help you get through this week and then on further if you qualify later on. And I must, again, just quickly say, don't be panicked if it's not done by this Sunday. You may miss out on payments, but again, you would have had to make the payments if you haven't employed the people. And you may even have a situation where you qualify after today that says, I found out next week that I'm going to have a drop of 30% in my income. You get an email that says a major project's been cancelled or a client's gone belly up on those sort of situations. You can apply from JobKeeper from that date forward, and you'll get your $1,500 in each fortnight for each employee. So it's not a one and only chance today. It will be open ongoing right through to the 30th of September.
Look, and depending on where the situation is, the government has been, regularly extending different time schemes and all that sort of stuff. I don't think they're going to do that with the backdated thing, but if it is because their system's crashing, it would shock me if they didn't. But if it's just because you didn't get your paperwork in, then they may not be as lenient from that perspective. So please, Damian, can you or one of your team put that link in the comments below on this particular feed? You'll find this post when we get off this discussion, and if you can put that link in there, then everybody can just click on the link and they'll go straight through to it. That'll help us, that'll help people who do have more questions. So have you got any final thoughts?
It is an anxious time. I get that, and everyone gets that, and we're all in the same boat. It's been said a couple of times, we will get through this, but we've got to do it together. That's why we're happy to share this resource. It's not something that I think we need to hang on to. And also just be very mindful of your mental health. All right. So there are situations, and I guess you relate it back to the airline, where the oxygen masks drop out, put yours on first, and then be ready to help other people. So just take a little calm, take a little one step, take a deep breath, understand that this is a bigger picture that's happening here. The government's positive about trying to get the money out there. We've just got to help you get that process done. And we've got 800,000 people or businesses that registered for eligible interest in JobKeeper. So your comments are probably right, Kevin. There's a fair number of people to be processed within a week. But again, the tax office are working to a political statement that said we'll have payments out on the first week in May, and that's what they're trying to do. And I wouldn't be shocked if they do come out and say, look, we're going to extend it because we just don't have the same sort of numbers that we thought we'd get, or there have been system and process errors, and we'll work with you on that. So yeah, take a deep breath and we'll get through it.
Yeah. And a little bit of patience is one thing that I'm asking everyone to have right now. I understand that some people are, we're all at different levels of anxiety, and I fully appreciate that. But everybody is doing their best that they can to support you. The government's doing the best that they can to support you, both federally and the state government. Even the council is doing the best they can to support you. They're looking for what you need. And as they solve one problem, they uncover another one, and so on and so forth. One of the challenges that we did uncover yesterday was the fact that the state government had put a lot of their small business grants on hold right now at the moment. I'm looking at getting a petition for the state government in order to get them to reopen all of their different grant programs, to expedite them so that they can get grants to help businesses get professional advice, to help businesses in Queensland, particularly smaller micro businesses, because their loan situation really was more situated for the larger end of small businesses, the $2 million plus businesses, which a lot of these grant programs aren't tailored to. They were the people who are in the position to get their loan application in and get it approved and all that sort of stuff. That particular process finished or got closed on Saturday. And so now we're needing to look for, okay, how can the state government now look and help smaller micro businesses? And that's something that, watch this space, you'll hear more about it. But we are looking at, I'm speaking to my local member about sponsoring a petition to get them to look at how they can help that smaller micro end of the market.
And just as a corollary to that, the state government announced $500 million for $250,000, up to $250,000 loans. Those have also closed temporarily at this point in time.
Well, that was the one that I was saying. Yeah, that closed on Saturday. That particular one was the one that closed on Saturday. So,
all right, we may need to pick up that conversation once we get through this week about the other stimulus packages and what businesses should be doing through this process. But no overload, just one step at a time. You're on board?
Absolutely. We're playing a fun game of muting ourselves while we're going through this, causing a little bit of confusion. I'm sorry for that. Look, please, if you do have questions, put them in this stream. Damian and his team will be following what happens on this particular stream and getting back to people who do ask questions, and we will respond as best we possibly can with the information that's available at the moment. Damian and his team are definitely the messengers in this situation. Please make sure you don't vent your frustration at the messenger. They're doing the best they can. Okay, so look, guys, I think that the government is doing a lot to try and help us. Federally and the state government definitely doing a lot to try and help us. Even locally, they are doing a lot to try and stimulate business within the region of Australia, of Queensland, and also of Brisbane or one of the surrounding councils that you may be part of. So please, be thankful for what they are doing. A lot of other countries aren't anywhere near as well coordinated in helping their people get through this, and they don't know what the other side's going to look like. We don't know what the other side's going to look like, but everyone is trying to do the best to have as many of us come out the other side with businesses that we can be proud of. So that's my request to everyone. Damian, have you got any last words?
No, not really. I think, as I said, just calm, stay healthy, get wealthy, and be wise about what you do during this time. Goodbye.
Thanks a lot, Damian. I really appreciate your time.